In this week's video, we're going to focus on things to see and do within Labrador. On our trip on the Trans-Labrador Highway, we took many stops along the way, so we're going to show you what we found. So let's get into the video. Roll that intro. Well, good morning and welcome to day 2 on the Trans-Labrador Highway. Actually, day 1 was not actually the Trans-Labrador Highway. It doesn't start until you get to the Labrador border, but I'm calling it that anyhow. So what we did is we stayed here in Labrador City last night. Now, Labrador City was actually started in 1960 by an iron ore company. It was a company town. And they started a mine just outside of town, just to the north. Well, it's grown quite a bit. There's actually 4 mines, 4 iron ore mines around here, some in Quebec and some in Labrador. But Labrador City has about 7,400 people now. The one thing I found really interesting about what I was looking into about Labrador City is some of the notable people that they've had that have lived here, which kind of surprised me a little bit. So one of them is Margot Kidder, who's a famous actress who played Lois Lane in the Superman series in the 70s and 80s. She also acted in a lot of other things like the Amityville Horror and Law and Order and a bunch of other stuff. She was raised here. She was actually born in Yellowknife, but she was raised in Labrador City as a kid. And then another one was Mark Nichols, who is a 2006 Winter Olympic gold medalist, came out of Labrador City. He actually curled with the Brad Gushu rink. And out of a little community here of 7,000 people now, and who knows what it was a while ago, they've actually produced 3 NHL hockey players from this little town. Anyhow, it is a little mining town. Some are great friendly people we met here. Everywhere we went, we had a conversation with somebody. So now we're going on day 2 towards Newfoundland. We're going to look for Churchill Falls, and I'm not sure, but we might make it all the way to Goose Bay. Okay, let's see what day 2 has to hold for us. Okay, we're going to go for a hike here to try to find where Churchill Falls is. I don't know how long this trail is, but off we go. Well, here's one viewpoint, but we're still trying to discover what was where and when.
But you can imagine, look at all the rock, like that all used to be water, because there's nothing growing there.
In the 1830s, European explorers was the first time they saw these falls here, now known as the Churchill Falls. But back in the 1890s, 1900s is when they first surveyed this area for the possibility of a hydroelectric dam, and at that time they determined it wasn't feasible. When the iron ore mines started getting developed in the 1960s around Labrador City is when they came back here and developed plans to build the dam. So the dam's about 20 kilometers away, called Churchill Dam. What they had to do is they had to reroute this river. So the falls used to take up that whole rock face there, and after they rerouted the river, that's all that's left of the falls. So this is Churchill Falls now. The picture I'm going to show you is Churchill Falls before.
Here's my true falls picture.
Oh, here's Lucinda's tree fall.
I hope I don't fall.
Tree falls pose. Welcome to Happy Valley, Goose Bay. So we're going to be taking a little stop here to take a look around town. I always remember my dad used to talk about Goose Bay a lot. He actually worked here back in the 50s. So we're gonna go take a look around at the town. Let's go. Here we are at the Goose Bay Airport. It's hard to tell from this angle, but it's one of the longest runways in the world at 3.3 kilometers long. So CFB Goose Bay was built by the Royal Canadian Air Force and the United States Air Force in 1941 to 1943. Then it was operated by the Royal Canadian Air Force from 1941 until present, but it was also operated by the United States Air Force from 1942 until 1976. And it's still an active Air Force base today. Boy, what a find for a free campground here in Goose Bay. So it's at the visitor center, so they allow you to park here. You get to plug in for power, and then look at the sitting area. Now that's what I call boondocking. A little better than Walmart. We're going to the Labrador Interpretive Center today in Northwest River, Labrador. Let's go inside. We're here at the Red Bay National Historic Site, and we're going to find out about a 16th century shipwreck. Let's go take a look. Here's a model of the shipwreck that they found here in 1978. The pieces they found at the bottom of the bay, when they brought them to the surface, they made casts. And this is a reproduction of the pieces that they brought up. It's a real windy day out here today, so we weren't able to sail over to the island behind us. So that is Saddle Island, the site of a shipwreck that was discovered in 1978. So they did some archaeology studies on it from 78 to 86. And determined it was the shipwreck of the San Juan from the 16th century. It was believed to be around 1564, I think it was. Anyhow, it was a whaling boat, and what they discovered is on the island there is whaling operations that happened from the 1540s to the early 1600s. It's actually quite interesting that they came all the way from France and Spain to do whaling operations over here. Hopefully tomorrow there's less wind and we can go over there and check it out for ourselves. We're now going up Tracy Hill Trail. We're going to go for a bit of a hike. But right behind me there is Penny Island and Saddle Island. Hopefully tomorrow we'll go there. But let's go for this hike.
Hey Craig, check this out. Day one or one day, you decide.
One day or day one, you decide.
What did it say?
One day or day one, you decide.
I decide day one. Again.
Today the waters were much calmer, so we actually made it to Saddle Island, And we're going to take a tour around the island now. So here's the location where the shipwreck was found. And it's right out there between the two white buoys. The shipwreck ahead of us that you can see is the Bernier, and that happened in 1965. But because of that shipwreck, it led to the discovery of the San Juan shipwreck right there. Oh look! There's a button! You'll only get that if you watch Oak Island.
Buttons are cool.
So CFB Goose Bay was built by the Canadian Air Force and CFB Goose Bay was built by the Royal Canadian Air Force and the why can't I remember that name?